Perfect. We're nice and live. All right, good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Ray Heiss from Revive Sport and Spine, your Salt Lake area chiropractic and running injury specialist. And we are here today with one of the best known guys in the shoe business, the running shoe business here in Salt Lake, Darrell Phippen from Wasatch Running Center. Thanks for joining me this morning. Thanks for coming in early.
Yes.
As you can see, he's got to get this shop ready to go with this big wall of shoes and a bunch of other things in here. But he took some time out of his day to share with us what's new in the running shoe business, how we can use that to remain injury-free.
Great.
But before we jump into that, tell everybody about you. What's your background running? What's your background in the store?
Sure. Wasatch Running Center, we've been open 14 years now, and we have 2 locations. We've been here in Sandy for 14, and then about 4 years ago we opened up a store north of Salt Lake in Centerville. So that one's been around about 4 years. But we felt the need of a running store at the southern end of the valley. That's why we're here. We have our owner. His name is Glenn Gerner, and I was a good friend of Glenn's wife's family. And when he first opened the business, he said, "Hey, do you want to come work for me part-time?" And I thought, why not? I've been running my whole life. And then about a year and a half into it, the part-time job became a full-time job, and here I am. So I manage here the Sandy store, and then Glenn takes care of our Centerville store. But we've just been so pleased and so happy to be part of the running community here in the Salt Lake City, and really in the entire state of Utah over the last 14 years.
Excellent. I think as any long-term runner, this is probably a dream job for most people. I think
Yes.
in the back of our heads, we're like, hey, if I could just own a running store,
Yeah.
I think that'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
So when you get to come in here day in and day out, but what's your running background? Did you run in high school, college? I know
Yeah.
you run a lot now. We were just talking about
Yeah.
races before we turned this on, but you run a lot.
Yeah, so I ran mainly in high school, and then when it came to the college years, I just kind of was working and going to college. Didn't run during college, but just, I guess, competed locally during that time. And then it was really great to start working here, to just be open to so much more of the running world opposed to just the little world that I lived in. So opposed to doing 5Ks, 10Ks, and marathons. You know, when we really think about it, 15 years ago, there were very few half marathons.
Yeah, there weren't many.
And that's really the most popular distance that people run now.
Yeah.
But then also to get into trail running, ultra running, that's kind of where I've enjoyed being over the last 5 to 10 years is being on the trail. But I still love to get on the roads and go fast. And, sometimes it's easier to get a road workout in than a trail workout.
Yeah, it is. There's no driving. There's just out the door and go.
Yes. But try. And really what I tried to do is, when I started trail running, it was something I really hadn't done before. And I felt it was something that I needed to do to understand more about what our customers are doing out there. So just kind of broaden my perspective from the road to the trail, so kind of see everything. Yeah,
and we can go off topic there real quick. I mean, we live in one of the best places I've ever been to, which was why I was sold so easily on moving to Utah. Is, some places you can run trails. Here you can literally walk out your door and be on a trail within a matter of minutes. It's such a unique place, and you're right. It's wonderful up there. That's the best way I can describe it. I mean, it's nice to just get up in the hills and just let it be, run until you time to turn around and come back down. It's such a great place to be.
Yes.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I know you've got Squaw Peak coming up. What else are you training for this year?
That's the main thing that I had on the calendar, and I've spent so much time on the trails. There's been a part of me over the last couple of years that I've missed the road. I just jumped in and did the St. George Marathon last year. I was down there for the expo, and I might as well. And so I'm actually going to probably take a little time off, not do exclusively trails, but probably focus a little more on the road again, see how much speed is
keep that
left
speed
in the
as
body.
long as we can.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear
exactly.
That. Good. Well, let's talk about what we came here for, right?
Yep.
Running shoes. That's probably, there's a few outliers that really like socks or really like clothes, but for all of us, if we could have a closet full of running shoes, I couldn't think of anything better. So what's new with running shoes right now? Like where's the new technology going? What's going to help us be faster, run further, and more importantly, what's going to help us stay injury free?
Well, the thing I tell people all the time as I'm fitting folks here in the store is that all these brands, all the brands that we carry, that we like to call technical running shoes, they all make such quality footwear now. It's just a matter of finding which one is your favorite.
Works for you, right?
Which one works for you, whether it be something that's a New Balance or an Asics or a Saucony or a Brooks, some of these brands that have been around literally over 100 years, to some of the newer brands like Hoka or Ultra, or there's a small company out of Switzerland called On running shoes.
Interesting.
All these different types of shoes. And I think the great thing is having so many options, we're able to figure out what works best for that person, whether it's a wide foot or a narrow foot. Okay, I want something really responsive. I'd rather just have something really cushioned and not feel anything under my foot. And so the big thing that we see is that companies are working with are the uppers of the shoes, making them as light as possible, as seamless as possible, so there's nothing there to bother the foot, to irritate the foot that could maybe cause a blister or some sort of irritation. And then the other thing that we've really seen, I would almost credit Adidas about 7-8 years ago, that they changed their midsole material.
Yeah.
They went to their Boost material.
Yeah, that foam, was it like a foam material? Like, what was that?
It was a foam material, and now it's these almost like these beads that have been bonded together. And with the EVA, which is the regular midsoles of most running shoes, those can be firmer when it's cold and softer when it's hot. And Adidas came out with this midsole material that, regardless of temperature and regardless of how many miles you have on the shoe, it should feel the same at mile 1, at mile 500. And so I credit them to really looking at things differently. And you've seen Brooks follow suit, Saucony follow suit, Nike just came out with a new shoe this year, kind of all mimicking what they did. But all it's done is to create shoes that are more responsive, more cushioned, and more durable. And so that's really where I see the industry going. It's providing a shoe as light as possible, but with as much cushion as possible at the same time. And I think the whole idea is, to your point, Andrew, is we're trying to keep people injury-free. And that's what these midsoles are trying to do. I think 10, 15 years ago, there were some shoes that were very, very firm. And there are still shoes that are firm.
Some people do need that.
Some people do need that, and some people prefer that. But I think nowadays we just have so many options. We've gone from minimalism to maximalism, if you will, with some of the Hoka shoes, which is fine. And Hoka is one of our top sellers. And I think it works really well for here in Utah. We have these great mountains, a lot of downhill races.
Yeah, a lot of long races.
A lot of long races. And so we just want to do anything to prevent injury and protect the body as much as possible, and not only just the feet, but the ankles, the knees, the hips, everything.
Yeah, and that's where that next question I was going to ask. You see that from, Ultra is one that comes to mind of just your zero drop, a little bit smaller sole, but they do have bigger soled ones, and then you've got Hoka that, I remember when they first came out, I was like, how's that going to work? Thinking of how ankles work and how the body adapts to, but now, I've personally switched more from just road running to a little bit of triathlon. I think Hoka's taken over as far as most popular shoe in triathlon, just because when you get off the bike, you're spent. You want something comfortable, cushioned, that you're going to dredge through the run with.
Yes.
And it's interesting of all the varieties, and that's where I know there's not one shoe for everybody else, and that's where we'll skip to this last question before we do the third one is why should people come get fitted, right? I see a lot of shoes that are visually appealing, but may not work for me. Like over years I found out which brands and which fits work for me, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of other shoes that are appealing, that look nice, that feel light. That may even feel comfortable in the store. Like, run me through that process. How do you guys fit people? What are your suggestions on that? What if they get out there a week and they're just having a really hard time with the shoe and they come back in? Run me through that process.
Sure. I think a couple things that come to our fitting process. There are some people who've been runners for years and years and years. They have their favorite shoe, and they do it, and they'll love it, and that's great. But there's a lot of people that are new to the sport, and they don't know what to do. And so, maybe they're just buying shoes at Walmart or Big Five, and that's fine, because they just don't know where to begin. And so with these folks who do that, or they read a lot of stuff online, and there's a lot of information online.
There's so much information online.
People can get really confused really easily. So when we fit a brand new runner, or maybe they've been a runner and they just don't know if they've got the proper footwear, oftentimes we like to see what they're running in. I don't care where they bought it from, but sometimes the wear pattern on a shoe can really tell us what's going on, especially if they're dealing with a specific injury. We can pinpoint that to the shoe. Yeah. Sometimes it's the training and sometimes it's the preparation, but oftentimes with that new runner, the shoe could be the culprit of the problem. But we'll watch someone walk stocking feet because we always like to look at what the foot does naturally. Yeah. I know there are some other places where you'll stand on a pad and they'll look at the pressure points, and that's great, but we always like to see the foot in motion.
Yeah, we're running. We're not really standing
exactly.
still.
And so we want to see what's going on with that foot in motion. And we always like to watch them walk first because we never want to overstabilize someone in a shoe. We'd always rather understabilize and let that body naturally do what it does.
Say that again. Thank you. He's the expert in running shoes. I say that a lot of there's a natural process in our gait cycle. A lot of people shy away from pronation. That's normal.
That is
right?
normal.
Overpronation or uncontrolled speed of pronation, that's a problem. That's where people get hurt. But I like that you said that is there is a natural gait and everybody's different.
Yes.
And overstabilizing somebody that doesn't really need it can lead to more injuries.
Correct.
Right? Or not picking up somebody that really crashes down in pronation and not supporting that can also cause injury. So I like that you said that. I just wanted to make sure that everybody heard that. And there is a natural part of the gait cycle that we want to support, but not overstabilize.
And in today's world, do I heel strike? Do I forefoot strike? Where's the foot supposed to land? Is there a most efficient way to run?
There's more common injuries on each one.
There is.
If you're a heel striker, you get these injuries. If you're a forefoot, you get these. I mean, there's no perfect stride, right? There's no perfect foot spot, because if there was, we'd know it and we'd all be trying for it.
And so another thing that I always tell people is when they're dealing with this and they're trying to change this and they're tinkering with that, and sometimes we create more problems than we're trying to solve, I always tell people, listen, your body is going to find its natural path of movement. Yeah. And anything we can do to make that natural path more efficient, that's what we need to work on. And so that's really what we try to focus on. So we'll watch people we'll watch people run, and we'll go get anywhere from 3 to 6 shoes, and then we've got a treadmill if people want to hop up on there. But it's just a matter of process of elimination, and kind of back to the first thing I said is, because all these brands make such quality shoes, when I bring out 3 or 4 shoes for someone, I think they could run happily in any one of them. It's just a matter of them, the nuances of how it fits for them. And that's really what we're looking for, because, like I said, they all make quality shoes nowadays.
Excellent. Yeah, and I feel like coming in and talking, there's not a brand unless you wouldn't carry it if it wasn't a good shoe.
You got it.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to, whether it's a road running, racing, trail shoe. You guys are going to deal with quality.
Yes.
And they've been tested, and you know what's going to be good and bad for somebody working with them. So, so the last question I have, and this is one that gets asked to me often, I've got my own opinions on this, but how many shoes should we have in our rotation? I know that depends on mileage, but how often should we also change out our shoes? Because I know things that I've told patients, I know things I've told my spouse when I come home with 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, but what's your honest opinion on that?
Well, I think sometimes it depends on what a person is doing. If they're doing some road running and trail running, I would think the minimum amount of shoes they should have is 2 during that time. And I understand people are on a budget, and I totally understand that. So maybe if you're just a road runner, we always say the shoe's going to last 300 to 500 miles. You maybe get less or more out of a particular shoe or a particular brand for you, for your body type, certainly. But we always use that 300 to 500 mile mark. What we always prefer, opposed to taking a shoe from 0 to 500 miles, we always encourage people, when you get, let's say, 150, 200 miles on a particular pair of shoes, that's the time that you need to come in and get a second pair. And I always follow that up with, this is not a shoe salesman. I'm trying to sell more shoes. What I'm trying to do is, I'm not asking you to buy more shoes. I'm just asking you to buy that second pair earlier than you usually would. Because then what we're doing is we're doing a couple of things. We're making each shoe last longer, because now we're going to rotate between 2, and you don't use it as much during one particular week, opposed to putting, if you're a 30-mile-a-week person, opposed to putting 30 miles on 1 pair, now you're only putting 15 on 2 pair. And what this does, especially in your line of work, this is going to help prevent injury.
And that's what I tell people is, a shoe's going to break down a little bit. It takes a little time to recoil. And granted, we talked about the technology that prevents that. But I remember, 10, 15 years ago, you wore a shoe, a race, and then the next day you want to wear it again. It still felt compressed and pretty hard, and allows you to bounce back. And, also when I think about the foot, it changes the pattern a little bit. If you're running 30, 50 miles in one pair of shoes, you've got the same foot strike every time. A different pair of shoes is going to challenge you just a little bit on those stabilizing muscles and how your foot strikes. And I like that of just a little variety. It's like going from the road to the trail. If you've never ran on trails and you're always a road runner, those first few runs are hard. Your lower legs get sore. Your risk for spraining an ankle is a lot higher until you adapt to that. And I think the shoes tend to help with that as well.
And there are some people who fall in love with one pair of shoes, and that's fine if they just rotate between two. I just want two shoes at different lifespans, if you will, because when we get closer to that 500-mile mark, especially if someone is just running in one pair of shoes, oftentimes they'll feel it in their feet or they'll feel it in their knees. Oh, it's time for a new pair. I would rather those folks never have those pains and feelings. And so that's why always having that newer pair between the two to rotate in, so you're always running in that fresher pair, every other time out the door. So, somebody can have anywhere from 2 to 6 pairs of shoes in the mix. One road, one trail. I always like to have a shorter, lighter shoe that I'll either race in or do my quicker workouts in. And then for the trail, I usually do the same. I've got one that, maybe I'm training for a 50-miler, and this is the shoe that I'm going to go do a 25-miler in. But I also have my shoe, I'm just going out for a quick 10. This is the shoe that I'm gonna run in. But also, to your point, we encourage people to get on the trail, not only because they're so accessible here, but we believe it helps strengthen the foot, the ankle.
Absolutely.
Getting on natural surfaces is easier on the body, and that can also prevent injury as well. So we always encourage a variation in someone's running, opposed to walking out the door doing the same 4-mile route day in and day out.
Around the block every time.
Around the block.
Don't even change the side of the road. They're just on the same side no matter what.
You can put your body and mind on cruise control. We need to switch it up, not only to get more benefit out of what our running is, but to help strengthen the body at the same time.
Absolutely. Those are all great points. I appreciate you weighing in with your expertise on what you do. If you guys have any questions past this, please leave us a comment. We're going to post this video. They'll probably post it on their page as well. We're always happy to answer those questions. But running shoes are a huge part of remaining injury-free. You're right. One of the biggest things I tell people when they come in, I'm like, are you primarily a road runner? If they're dealing with certain injuries, you need to get on the trails. Challenge those stabilizing muscles. Take some of that pressure off of pounding the pavement all the time. So there's a lot of information in here. But if you're needing new shoes, you're having difficulty with your shoes, I would definitely encourage you to come in and get fitted. You guys are excellent at that. Everybody's trained in that. You have a great staff. So please come in, get fitted, find the right shoe for you. And get out there and let's run some miles. The weather is fantastic. I mean, it's 9:30 in the morning and it's warm and sunny out there right now. So it's a bad day to work, but it's a great day to get out and run. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Please send us any questions and have a great spring and summer running.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yes.